It's October 7th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with President Yoon Suk-yeol's Southeast Asia diplomacy. The first stop in the South Korean leader's three-nation trip is the Philippines, where he's set to sit down with his Filipino counterpart later this afternoon and explore ways to tighten the two countries' cooperation in areas including infrastructure and the mineral supply chain. Monday marks 1 year since the bloody Hamas attack on Israel sparked a war on the Gaza Strip. Violence still continues to this day, with Israel now warning Iran that it might end up looking like Gaza or Beirut. Seoul's military says North Korea is flying what appears to be trash-carrying balloons to South Korea as of Monday morning. This is already the 25th time the regime has done so since this May. President Yoon Suk-yeol has embarked upon his 6th trip to Southeast Asia, where he is expecting to ramp up South Korea's ties with the region economically and diplomatically. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will elevate South Korea's partnership with Southeast Asian nations and seek support for the denuclearization of North Korea as he attends the region's annual summit in Laos this week. On Sunday, Yoon set off for the Philippines, the first stop of his three-nation tour, where he's expected to strengthen economic and diplomatic cooperation between the two countries. Having signed a free trade agreement in Jakarta last year, the two governments are expected to produce more specific deals on areas like infrastructure, energy, defense, and mineral supply chain cooperation. Yoon's next stop is Singapore, where his state visit is likely to result in deals to promote cooperation on energy, innovation, and cutting-edge technologies through greater research and development, as well as talent exchanges. The leader will also raise the need for North Korea's denuclearization and the unification of the two Koreas as a formula for peace in the Indo-Pacific region. Ahead of his trip, Yoon told the Associated Press in a written interview that he'd emphasized that North Korea's nuclear disarmament is essential for regional peace and prosperity when he attends the ASEAN-related meetings on Thursday and Friday in Laos. In the run-up to the US presidential election, he warned that North Korea is likely to carry out further nuclear tests and launches of intercontinental ballistic missiles, deeming the regime's reveal of a nuclear facility last month as a cry for attention from Washington and the international community. As South Korea and ASEAN mark 35 years of dialogue relations this year, Yoon added that Seoul is aiming to forge a comprehensive strategic partnership with the 10-member bloc and expand the scope of cooperation to cover politics, military exchanges, cybersecurity, environment, and measures against financial crises. Yoon will hold individual meetings with ASEAN member states on the sidelines and is arranging to meet with new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba for the first time. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, the official ceremony to welcome President Yoon on his state visit to the Philippines will kick off soon at the Malacanang Palace. For more, we go straight to our Kim Do-yeon traveling with the president. Do-yeon, fill us in.
Tommy, as you said, in a few moments, the official welcoming ceremony will kick off as President Yoon Suk-yeol arrives at the Malacanang Palace, where President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. will welcome him. Now, this is the first state visit by a South Korean president to the Philippines in 13 years. The two leaders are set to start with a smaller group discussion and go into the expanded group session. There will also be a series of MOUs signed by the two leaders and a joint press conference. Now, the details of the MOUs will be out later on, but according to the top office so far, South Korea is most notably looking to cooperate with the Philippines' Build Better, More project. It's an infrastructure project that will consist of bridges and roads, and the MOUs will hopefully pave the way for South Korean companies to participate. Also, the Philippines is looking to cooperate with South Korean nuclear energy as well, as the Southeast Asian nation is looking to resume using nuclear power, something they stopped back in 1986, the year of Chernobyl nuclear disaster.
Now, Do-yeon, give us a brief rundown of President Yoon's visit to the Philippines so far. It seems like he's been highlighting the depth of the bilateral relationship. Tell us more.
That's right, a deep history between the two nations indeed. The Philippines is the fifth nation South Korea established diplomatic ties with. That was 75 years ago. And the Philippines was one of the first nations to send troops to support South Korea during the Korean War, and the two nations have a similar history. In fact, President Yoon emphasized this twice already. First, as soon as he landed, President Yoon laid a wreath at the Korean War Memorial Pylon at the Hero Cemetery in Manila, joined by Filipino-Korean War veterans and their families. And just moments ago, to start his second day here, he was supposed to stop at Rizal Park commemorating one of the Philippines' independence movement's heroes. We'll get to you with more details on that. Now, the two nations, of course, enjoy a deep history of civilian exchanges. Yoon already hosted Korean residents here, which is customary on overseas visits, and emphasized their roles in bilateral relationship last night.
이렇게 양국 간의 유대와 우정이 돈독해지게 된 데에는 우리 동포 여러분들의 역할이 매우 컸다고 생각합니다. 한국과 필리핀의 관계가 발전하는 과정에서 동포 여러분께서 늘 든든한 버팀목이 돼 주신 것에 대해서 대통령으로서 감사하게 생각합니다.
So after the summit, Yoon's state visit to the Philippines will wrap up later in the day. He's set to head to Singapore for another state visit. That's all for now. Back to you, Tami.
All right, thanks, Doyan. Do keep us posted. Now, President Yoon Suk-yeol is the first South Korean leader to make a visit to the Philippines in 13 years, like our Kim Do-yeon said. What makes his visit timely, and what synergy can we expect from Seoul-Manila relations? Let's turn to Professor Geoffrey Calamag. Good morning.
Good morning, Dami. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So, like I said, no South Korean leader had made a trip to the Philippines for over a decade. What makes his visit so significant this time?
Well, yeah, President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to the Philippines is timely and significant, and as already mentioned earlier, it is particularly coincides with the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between South Korea and the Philippines. In a bigger picture, it provides a historical context for renewed cooperation. And primarily, the visit is amplified by the potential for economic cooperation to explore new avenues for collaboration in different sectors, such as supply chain in minerals, investments, and infrastructure projects. In addition to economic cooperation, the geopolitical region adds to, or geopolitical context of the Indo-Pacific region adds another layer of significance to President Yoon's visit. And the visit is particularly strategic as it comes at a time when South Korea is actively seeking to bolster its alliances in the Indo-Pacific as part of its foreign policy strategy. As tensions rise in the region, specifically concerning North Korea's nuclear ambitions and provocations, and China's assertive posture in the South China Sea, those countries find themselves in a strategic position to collaborate on security matters. On top of that, the cultural dimension of the visit is noteworthy because this cultural connection can be leveraged to enhance people-to-people ties, which are crucial for fostering mutual understanding and cooperation.
Definitely. And also the Philippines is reportedly hoping to cooperate with South Korea on a nuclear power plant project, that has been long stalled. To tell us more about the project and Philippines trying to build a nuclear power plant with South Korea.
Yes, that's true. The Philippines is exploring the feasibility of a nuclear power program, including the possible revival of the Bataan project or constructing a small modular reactor with the intention of addressing the growing energy demands of the nation and reducing reliance on imported fossil fuels, with electricity demand expected to more than triple by 2040. It is imperative that energy security is a stated priority for the Philippine government. So dating back in the 1970s, in response to the 1973 oil crisis, the country began construction of 621 Westinghouse unit at Bataan nuclear plant. This was launched in 1976 with the assistance of the United States and with the intention to be the first nuclear power plant in Southeast Asia. The plant was completed in 1984, but never commissioned. And one of the most significant factor why it was not operationalized was because of the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, which raised global concerns about the safety of nuclear power. And also the the political landscape shifted dramatically during that time, leading to a re-evaluation of the country's energy policies. The new government then, under President Corazon Aquino, decided to halt the operations of the Bataan nuclear plant due to safety concerns and the lack of regulatory framework for nuclear energy. But because the country continued to grapple with energy shortages and rising electricity costs, this prompted discussions about reviving the nuclear power initiative. Case in point, the Philippines has one of the highest electricity rates in Southeast Asia, averaging about 20 US cents per kilowatt hour. So the electricity expense in operating a business in the Philippines is about 7 to 10%, but it can go as high as 50% on energy-intensive industries such as manufacturing. Therefore, securing a more stable and sustainable mix of energy sources can significantly improve investment climate in the Philippines. So the current administration under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has signaled a commitment to exploring nuclear energy options, including the possibility of cooperating with South Korea on nuclear power projects.
Well, it's definitely an ambitious project of the Philippines. Now, Professor, you have to tell us what makes South Korea an attractive partner for resuming the project.
Well, first and foremost, South Korea has the expertise and the extensive experience in nuclear energy. South Korea has a well-developed nuclear energy infrastructure and a proven track record in nuclear power generation. And not to mention, South Korea is the second fastest nuclear power plant building country in the world after Japan. The average construction period for a plant was only 56 months for Korea, more than 3 times faster than other countries building nuclear plants, with an average of 190 months. Second, South Korea has a robust regulatory framework. The country's regulatory bodies, such as the Nuclear Safety and Security Commission, are responsible for ensuring that nuclear facilities operate within stringent safety standards. This regulatory environment can serve as a model for the Philippines as it seeks to develop its own nuclear power capabilities. And also, but not the least, is South Korea's commitment to sustainability, history of international cooperation, and strategic geopolitical positioning. So this makes South Korea an attractive partner for the Philippines in resuming its nuclear power.
Alrighty, Professor, thank you so much for your time and your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
On Monday, the 22nd National Assembly launches its first annual parliamentary inspection of government and departments and agencies. The audits will take place for 26 days, with standing committees of the National Assembly carrying out inspections of over 800 agencies. 10 standing committees, including the Legislation, Science and Broadcasting, and Sports and Culture committees, are starting the process today. They are set to look into cases of politicians' trials, media regulation, and the operation of sports associations in the country. South Korea's military says North Korea sent more trash-carrying balloons toward South Korea Monday. According to the Joint Chief of Staff, on the same day, the latest round of balloons could be headed toward northern Gyeonggi province and other parts of the Seoul metropolitan area. It called on people to be cautious of potential balloon drops and not to touch the balloons. The latest trash balloon campaign comes just 3 days after a similar launch last week. North Korea has sent more than 5,000 balloons carrying trash since last May on over 25 different occasions. It's been 1 year since the war in Gaza broke out. With the war only sliding closer to a wider regional conflict, Israel has once again warned Iran against taking action. Lee Seung-ja has more.
With tensions escalating between Israel and Iran, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned Tehran that if it continues to try and harm Israel, it should remember what happened to Gaza and Beirut.
Whoever thinks that by trying to harm Israel they will deter us from reacting, they only need to look at what is happening in Gaza and Beirut.
The comments come as Gallant visited an Israeli Air Force base on Sunday, which was targeted in Tuesday's barrage of Iranian missiles toward Israel. Amid ongoing conflict in Lebanon, Israel has also declared 3 northern regions bordering Lebanon, Manara, Ifta, and Malkiya, a closed military zone with entry to those areas prohibited. The IDF previously declared 3 other areas closed military zones after it began its ground operation in Lebanon last week. Meanwhile, on the eve of the anniversary of the October 7th attack, an Israeli border police was killed and 10 others injured when a man began shooting and stabbing at a bus station in Beersheba. The assailant was an Israeli citizen and was killed by IDF forces at the scene. Over the weekend, tens of thousands of protesters around the world took to the streets to call for an end to bloodshed in Gaza and the Middle East as a whole. Saturday's protests come as Monday marks the first anniversary of the deadly Hamas attack on Israel. Around 40,000 pro-Palestine protesters took to the streets in central London, while thousands gathered in Paris, Rome, Manila, Cape Town, and New York City. Protesters also gathered near the White House, calling on the U.S. to end its support for Israel and their military campaigns in Gaza and Lebanon. According to Gaza's health ministry, nearly 42,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces, while displacing nearly all of the Gaza population. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And as the tensions escalate in the Middle East, nearly 100 South Koreans living in Lebanon have safely returned home over the weekend using a military transport aircraft. Our Peunji has the details.
A military transport aircraft carrying 97 evacuees from Lebanon lands at an airbase in Seongnam, south of Seoul. A sense of relief was visible on the faces of those returning as they disembarked the plane on Saturday, greeted by their families. Kim Se-kyung, who returned home with her 2 young daughters, said she's grateful to be alive.
We couldn't sleep at night because our house was shaken from the bombing. We're so grateful the government sent us a transport plane.
The KC-330 aircraft left Lebanon's capital on Friday afternoon, carrying the evacuees, including 96 South Korean nationals and 1 Lebanese national, a family member of a South Korean citizen. The C-130J transport plane, capable of operating on shorter runways and under fire, was also sent as a backup. A foreign ministry official who led the operation explained that he could tell the situation in Lebanon was serious, saying a cloud of smoke was seen near the Beirut airport.
There was black smoke behind the bus carrying our citizens, not too far from the airport.
Meanwhile, 30 South Koreans have reportedly decided to stay in Lebanon, and the government said it'll take necessary measures to ensure their safety. South Korean diplomats, including the country's ambassador to Lebanon, also remain in Lebanon. The evacuation plan comes as the conflict between Israel and the Hezbollah militant group continues to escalate, making it increasingly difficult for those living in Lebanon to leave the country on commercial flights. Peunji, Arirang News.
Now, let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Seong here in the studio. Good morning, Seong.
Good morning, Dami.
So there was an explosion outside an airport in Pakistan just last night. What exactly happened?
Yes, Dami. So we're going to begin today, the world now, with the news in Pakistan, where an oil tanker outside the Jinnah International Airport in Karachi on Sunday, killing at least 2 people and injuring some 10 others. Now, local broadcasters Geo News reported that at least 1 foreigner was among the injured, while the rest of the casualties included security guards, rangers and the police, as well as 3 civilians. According to Sindh Province's Home Minister Zia-ul Hasan Lanjar, the explosion near the country's largest airport is likely to be an improvised explosive device strike, in other words, a terror attack, while officials have not yet confirmed the nature of the blast. However, in a statement emailed to journalists, the Baluchistan Liberation Army, an armed rebel group, claimed responsibility for the explosion, saying that they were targeting Chinese nationals with a vehicle laden with an IED. According to witnesses and CCTV footage, the explosion also destroyed 3 cars and 4 motorcycles. Now, Pakistan's Dawn News said that flights have not been affected by the incident. Moving over, the death toll in central Bosnia-Herzegovina, where flash floods and landslides swept away towns and villages, increased to at least 18 on Sunday after heavy rain hit the region. Search and rescue teams from Serbia, Croatia and North Macedonia worked through the weekend to remove piles of debris while searching for around a dozen people who remain unaccounted for. The deadliest floods in years to hit Jablanica region southwest of the capital, Sarajevo, on Friday, causing sudden floods that swept into people's homes as they slept. Bridges, roads and railway tracks were submerged or damaged as riverbanks burst, while communications and electricity supplies were also affected. A Royal New Zealand Navy ship ran aground and sank off Samoa's coast on Saturday, becoming the first ship the country's naval forces lost at sea since World War II. According to New Zealand's Defence Minister, all 75 crew and passengers on board were rescued. A Navy official said that HMNZS Manawanui, a specialist dive and hydrographic vessel, was conducting a survey of a reef when it ran aground just 1 nautical mile from the southern coast of the island of Upolu. The ship reportedly caught fire before capsizing, while officials said the cause of the incident is under investigation.
We had some ideal weather for napping on Sunday under cloudy skies with a nice breeze and spotty rain in central regions. However, certain parts of Korea saw showers which will continue through the first half of the day. Gyeongsangdo could see rain into this afternoon, but those on Jeju need to keep an umbrella handy until tomorrow morning. It was another breezy and cloudy start to the day for central parts of Korea. Then highs will rise to the 20s, going 2 to 4 degrees higher than yesterday with afternoon sunshine expected. But southern provinces stay cloudy all day with a high of 20 degrees Celsius in Gwangju and Busan this afternoon, Daegu topping out at 22 degrees. Now, rain continues on Jeju and the East Coast through Hangul Day on Wednesday. The rest of the country should have a pleasant week under bright skies with big temperature differences between lows and highs. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
So President Yoon is in the Philippines with a mission to tighten collaboration between Seoul and Manila. That is why we are breaking into our regular programming to deliver live coverage of the opening ceremony welcoming him to the Southeast Asian country. Now, while we wait for that to happen, let's turn to Professor Min Jung-hoon. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, like I said, President Yoon is the first South Korean leader to visit Manila in over a decade, exactly 13 years. What makes his visit so, timely?
Yes, as you mentioned, the President Yoon is the first South Korean leader to go on a state visit to the Philippines in 13 years. But he is supposed to visit 3 Southeast Asian countries this time, including the 2 state visits to the Philippines and Singapore, and then a trip to Laos for attending the annual ASEAN Summit and ASEAN Plus 3 Summit meetings. And he's attending the ASEAN Summit meeting for the 3 years in a row. And the ASEAN countries have become an important regional partner for South Korean economy and security. For the economy, South Korea has pursued diversifying its trade beyond China and U.S., and the ASEAN countries could be a meaningful alternative. Now, South Korea's export to the South Asian member states represents about 17% of all South Korean exports. And the ASEAN countries have paid attention to the security situations on the Korean Peninsula. So they are worried about North Korea's increasing military threats.
Indeed.
Yes, and they perceive that the North Korea's military provocations are really the grave threat to the regional security. And they have supported the South Korean positions in the international community. And among them, the Philippines is a good regional partner for South Korea for both security and economy. First, on the security side, the two countries, South Korea and the Philippines, are likely to discuss about how to enhance their maritime security cooperation, considering a situation where tensions between the Philippines and China over the disputed islands in the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea have become higher. And the Philippines is interested in enhancing its defense cooperation with South Korea because South Korea has got experience and the capabilities in maritime security. And on the economic side, the Philippines is a mineral-rich country with an abundant young population. And therefore, it has room for partnership with South Korea's technology, the powerhouse. So taken together, the state visit to the Philippines this time is for enhancing cooperation between the two countries, and it can positively affect the South Korea economy and the security.
Well, Professor Min, a huge chunk of President Yoon's state visit to Manila will be on Philippines' pursuit of resuming its long-paused nuclear power project. Tell us more about that.
Right. The Philippines has the fast-growing economy in the region, and therefore it is important to secure a stable, reliable, and sustainable system for energy supply. So the Philippines want to strengthen the role of the nuclear power generation to deal with climate change and the energy crisis. And as a matter of fact, the Philippines launched a project to build a nuclear power plant in the Bataan region, about 100 kilometers west of Manila in the 1970s. But unfortunately, the facility has not been commissioned due to the safety concerns in the wake of the 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster in Ukraine. But the time passed, and now the Philippines want to cooperate with South Korea on the nuclear power plant project. And as you know, South Korea could be an optimal partner based on its advanced construction and operation technologies.
Well, so it looks like South Korea is on a roll, attracting all these countries around the world, looking to, develop and, explore more nuclear power projects on top of, Chile. And of course, isn't the Philippines, like you said, rich in core minerals like, nickel? What can South Korea, benefit from Philippines' such rich minerals?
Yes, again, the Philippines is a mineral-rich country with abundant young population. So it has enough room for economic partnership with South Korea. And in the year of 2023, the Philippines is ranked second by nickel production output and the sixth by the cobalt production. And it also had a 5.6% GDP growth in 2023, and it became the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. And as you know, South Korea has the world-class manufacturing facility capabilities in advanced technologies like semiconductors, large volume batteries, and medical supplies, or the bioindustry. So it needs to secure stable supply chains for core or major minerals to make the products. And as you know, in terms of the U.S.-China strategic competition, each country tries to secure the stable and reliable supply chains close to its continents. And the same situation for South Korea.
Right.
And ASEAN countries like the Philippines and Indonesia are very important regional partners for South Korea in terms of major or core minerals and quality labor. And they are advantageous to South Korea because they are relatively close geographically. So enhancing economic cooperation with the Philippines and other ASEAN member states should be important for South Korea's economic interests.
And also on top of that, young population is such an appeal to South Korea, considering we are becoming a very super-aged society. And also, Professor Min, you mentioned this earlier, Philippines are taking a leading role in Southeast Asia when it comes to dealing with North Korea issues, especially nuclear and missile threats. How has the Philippines been vocal about it?
Right, and the ASEAN member states, including the Philippines, have paid much attention to North Korea's military threats. I remember that I visited the Philippines and other ASEAN member states in the past and delivered lectures about North Korea-U.S. relations. And I was surprised to see that they had lots of interest and that they truly had shared the grave security threats with South Korea and East Asian countries. And I found that they are truly the cautious about what kind of the provocations North Korea has made, something like that. So again, they think that North Korea's nuclear and missile provocations can threaten their regional stability. So they often made official statements to criticize North Korea's reckless nuclear and missile threats. And as you know, some ASEAN member states maintain diplomatic relations with North Korea, and therefore their voices could be heard by Pyongyang. So it's important for South Korea to receive their support when it promotes its positions against North Korea's military threats in the regional community and the international community. And for this time, before the state visit to the Philippines, in a written interview with the Associated Press, President Yoon mentioned that he would highlight the North Korea's recent disclosure of a nuclear facility, which he believes is aimed at drawing U.S. attention before the upcoming U.S. presidential election. And he would warn North Korea's potential provocations like the nuclear and missile provocation or tests. And he also mentioned that at the upcoming ASEAN summit, he would stress the importance of denuclearization of North Korea, which is a prerequisite for realizing a free, peace, and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. So it means that the security situation on the Korean Peninsula or in East Asia could directly link to the security, the stability and the security situations in the Southeast Asia and in the Pacific region. So the Philippines is important in terms of sending the clear message to the regional community and the international community that North Korea's military provocation should not be ignored or forgiven by any member in the region.
And I remember back in 2017, the Philippines also minimized the diplomatic, interactions with North Korea, as an effort to, warn North Korea over its nuclear and missile threats, right?
Yes, right. And it showed the clear determination of the Philippines that North Korea's military threat should be acceptable by any ASEAN member state, including the Philippines.
And also considering the regional closeness, of course, for Philippines, it's also a grave concern, when it comes to missile development and nuclear threats coming from the north. And on top of that, South Korea has also taken a, leading role in preserving freedom in South China Sea. And that's a huge message for the Philippines, right?
Yes, and as I mentioned earlier today, South Korea and the Philippines are likely to discuss about how to enhance maritime security, considering situation where the tensions over the disputed island in the South Sea between the Philippines and China have become higher. So the Philippines has a strong demand to enhance its maritime security, and it has significant interest in defense cooperation with South Korea. And as you mentioned, South Korea's potential security support to the Philippines would be in line with South Korea's stance that it supports preserving freedom in the South China Sea, and it would not tolerate any unilateral change in the status quo by force. So I think that South Korea is open to improve its defense cooperation with the Philippines, but mainly in terms of the maritime security.
And in recent years, the Philippines has been seeking to secure, tight trilateral cooperation with the U.S. and Japan, something like Seoul has with Washington and Tokyo. Professor Min, do you think there can be a quadruple cooperation between South Korea, the Philippines, the U.S. and Japan? What do you think?
It depends. I think that even if South Korea could be open to improve defense cooperation with the Philippines, but it should be about just maritime security, not the traditional hard security. Because South Korea also wants to maintain a favorable relations with China.
Right.
And so I think that South Korea would be reluctant to enhance quadruple cooperation among U.S., South Korea, Japan, and the Philippines in terms of the hard security cooperation, because such the cooperation could be perceived by China that South Korea is very active in terms of containing China around the South China Sea. And as a matter of fact, South Korea does not now perceive China as immediate security threat, and has a little interest in playing a significant role around the South China Sea, and playing a significant role, will affect significantly in terms of the resolving the disputes in the South China Sea. It's beyond South Korea's national interest. So I don't think that South Korea would join a quadruple security cooperation. Instead, South Korea would be more active and play a significant role in enhancing economic and technological cooperation among the four countries. It goes well with South Korea's economic and national interests.
Definitely. So, like you said, no maybe security alliance with, the Philippines, the U.S. and Japan. Then what about the defense cooperation itself between Seoul and Manila? Can they be upgraded this time?
Yes, and again, the two countries could upgrade or enhance their defense cooperations just in terms of military security or cyber security or something like that, not hard security. That's mainly because, again, South Korea's hard security interests just lie around the Korean Peninsula, not beyond the East Asia. And if South Korea's defense interests goes beyond the East Asia, beyond the Korean Peninsula, beyond the North Korea's military threat, then South Korea would face the serious challenge by China.
Of course.
So it does not represent South Korea's the national interest or the security interest. So by now, the defense cooperation with the Philippines should be about the maritime security, just helping the Philippines enhance its defense capabilities against any kind of forceful push or the aggressive actions by any actor around their territory, but not specified by China or something like that.
Right, and also, of course, countering North Korean threats and missile threats. That would be also in line with both of the countries' common interests for now. Now, let's talk about the Philippines Build Better More project, the so-called BBM project. Tell us more about the project first.
Yes, and the Philippines has got the infrastructure structure called the BBK because it's fast-growing. It has the fast-growing economy, but it still has the very old and very low quality infrastructure. If you go to Manila, you can easily see how bad the infrastructure, the facility, the capabilities is. Like all the bridges, all the buildings, and the roads, and airports, and other things. But in terms of the political corruptions and the income gaps among the people of the Philippines, it has not been easy to go through the infrastructure the project to enhance the quality of life of the people there. So the Philippines government has got the ambitious the plan to improve its infrastructure, the capabilities, and the South Korea could be the optimal partner for the project because, as you know, South Korea has got a lot of experience in terms of the constructing the infrastructure, infrastructures in the overseas, including the Middle East and African countries. So South Korea could be the optimal partner for the Philippines in terms of the infrastructure the project, because the South Korea has got the competitiveness in terms of the quality, delivery time, and other technologies.
So highly developed infrastructure for South Korea to offer the Philippines, and also in return, Philippines could, maybe provide some good core minerals to South Korea. On top of that, what can the Philippines offer South Korea in the meantime?
Well, again, the South Korea has got the fast growing economy, and it also has, as you mentioned, and it has plenty of the core minerals and so abundant young population, the good quality labors, and those things are the South Korea. Those things are some kind of the challenges that the South Korea is facing.
Right.
South Korea is a lack of the young population in terms of the quality labor and the lack of the core minerals and the major minerals and other things. So the Philippines could be the pretty good source of providing those important materials and the labors to South Korea. So in terms of providing, or in terms of the teaching technologies, or in terms of the sharing technology with the Philippines, the South Korea could have the important labor, core minerals, and other things. So the two countries could have the win-win situations in terms of enhancing the economic and technological cooperations. And if we visit the ASEAN countries, you can easily see their response that they truly badly want to enhance the economic cooperations, technological cooperations with South Korea. Because South Korea, unlike Japan and China, could be the more reliable and tangible than Japan and China. So the South Korea could be the number one choice for the ASEAN countries, which means that the South Korean government should be more active in terms of improving the economic and technological cooperations and human exchanges with the ASEAN, the member states.
We can also, speaking of human-to-human exchanges, we can also look forward to some, cultural cooperation and exchanges as well, right?
Right, and so the Hallyu, the K culture is very popular among the ASEAN countries.
Very.
Of course, the other parts of the world. So and lots of the young generations in the ASEAN countries, they want to learn the Korean and they want to have their personal experiences. Coming to the South Korea and spend some time like the sightseeing, and they want to have some kind of the school time or the learning in terms of exchange program. And K-culture and the young generation like that would be the very important human resources that South Korea can utilize in the future, because when they come to South Korea and when they are more exposed to the K-culture, they tend to have the more positive attitude, the perceptions about South Korea and the South Korean culture as a whole. So they would be a very important the human capital or the resources when the South Korea want to improve any kind of the cooperation with those countries. They would welcome South Korea's the contact to their countries. So it would be a kind of the truly important investment for the future.
Good investment.
Yes.
Speaking of, culture and human-to-human exchanges, we have to talk about tourism. So many people in South Korea, visit the Philippines for a vacation and just for, holidays. That can also be extended, right?
Right. And the South Korea and the Philippines, and nowadays the South Korean people often go to the for the other countries in terms of sightseeing and their vacations. And ASEAN countries could be the important, the affordable and attractive choice for them because they have truly the wonderful natural environments, and they also have plenty of good foods and cultural attractions and other things. So I think that also the South Korean people will go to the ASEAN member countries, states, including the Philippines, more as time passes by.
Right, and it looks like the welcoming ceremony for President Yoon Suk-yeol has started. We see the two leaders of Seoul and Manila standing. Now, this should be the highest level of reception that country's leader can receive, right?
Yes, absolutely. The President Yoon is going through the state visit to the Philippines. So I think that the Philippines shows the highest level of receiving the President Yoon. So that would be the highest level of how the Philippines receives the foreign leaders.
Right, and the welcoming ceremony was supposed to take place outdoor, outside, but due to the severe weather conditions, it is taking place indoor, but still, it looks pretty grand with the lighting and all the anthem and the ceremony.
So, as you can see on the screen, you can see the well-organized the procedures there.
Right.
Right there, so it seems that all the people there went through all the rehearsals and they're pretty good, and it shows that the South Korea is a very important partner to the Philippines, and they try to show the highest level of reception by the Philippine government.
Right. And also included in Yoon's trip to the Philippines is a Korea-Philippines Business Forum, which will invite business leaders from both of the countries. Professor Min, what kind of economic synergy can we expect from that business forum?
Right. It is known that about 40 business leaders went with the President Yoon this time. So they will go through the economic forum with their counterparts in Manila, and they will talk about how to enhance their cooperation between the counterparts and in the business sector. And we can see that they will mainly talk about how to enhance the cooperation in the fields of energy and the major minerals and technologies and other things.
Now there is the ceremonial honor guard. For those of our viewers who have just tuned in, we are covering live. We're delivering live coverage of President Yoon Suk-yeol's state visit to the Philippines. What you're seeing right now is the welcoming ceremony for President Yoon to the Philippines, Manila. He is accompanied by the First Lady Kim Gun-hee, and he is now shaking hands of the Filipino delegation welcoming President Yoon at the Southeast Asian capital. Now, this welcoming ceremony pretty much calls for the official state visit to the Philippines, right?
Right, yes, and it is known that President Yoon is going on the state visit to the Philippines, and as I mentioned earlier today, it's been about 13 years.
Right.
Since the South Korean president visited the Philippines as the state visit.
So a lot to look forward to on the economic front and also diplomatic front. Like you said, good core minerals and good quality labor from the Philippines, and also good and well-developed high-quality infrastructure from South Korea. And these are just the tip of the iceberg that we can look forward to, right?
Right, and the state visit to the Philippines this time could be advantageous to South Korea in both security and economy. And on the security side, Philippines wants enhance defense cooperation with South Korea, mainly in terms of maritime security. And on the economic side, it has lots of the economic interests that it wanted to improve its economic cooperation with South Korea, because South Korea has got the resources and the know-how and the capabilities in terms of infrastructure and the nuclear power plant projects and other things. And South Korea also wants to secure the stable supply chain countries, including the Philippines and Indonesia, because as I mentioned earlier today, the South Korea has got world-class manufacturing capabilities in advanced technologies, and it needs lots of core and major minerals that the Philippines has got underground or around the territories. And South Korea, in terms of enhancing its economic cooperation with the Philippines and Indonesia, it could secure the stable and reliable supply chains in those products.
Alrighty, Professor Min, thank you so much for your time and your insight this morning. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Now, do stay with us. We will be back with the press conference of the two leaders at 12:20 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.